Julie Gardner Robinson. Julie is the NDSU Nutrition and Food Safety Specialist, and we specifically want to make sure we talk about eggs today. Julie, have you been getting a lot of questions these days about eggs?
Yeah, every once in a while people will ask me about eggs. How do you store them and all that sort of thing.
Well, I actually called you because I had a guest I had a caller who had a bigger concern and question, and that was, this is the age-old question. Are white eggs healthier than brown-shelled eggs? Can you help us understand that?
Actually, they're both the same. It depends on the breed of chicken. That will determine the color of the eggshell. So no big differences.
Okay, so really we can safely put that myth to bed, that it really doesn't matter what color the egg is. They're all going to be good for you, right?
Absolutely. High in protein, lots of eye-healthy pigments and vitamin D, so eggs are good for you.
And Julie, I've got a question. So, all right, you go to the grocery store, you see some eggs, let's say the more expensive ones, cage-free. They're usually brown. So cage-free brown eggs, usually those are the most expensive ones. Is there any real difference between those and, let's say, just the regular white eggs, the cheaper eggs that you would buy?
There usually aren't any major differences. It really depends on what the chicken was fed or what they ate, just like us. And sometimes if pasture-raised hens are out and eating grass and that sort of thing, organic material, they may be higher in omega-3 fats, which are good. And we can certainly find omega eggs in the grocery store. But, in general, they're going to be very similar. And think about your budget and your own personal prerogatives on nutrition and choose accordingly.
Julie, over the years, we've gone from eggs aren't healthy for you, they're too high in cholesterol, to eggs are healthier. What's made that change, and which way should we really look at eggs? I think of them as a great cheap protein source, and I know I say cheap and people just rolled their eyes, but compared to other cuts of meat, they would be, correct? And so what's the difference here? Why did people get so worked up about their cholesterol if they were having too many eggs?
Well, early in nutrition science, we really didn't know the relationship between the cholesterol in food, which is one thing, dietary cholesterol, and the cholesterol in our body, which is blood cholesterol. And actually, dietary cholesterol, such as you'd find in eggs, really doesn't have a major effect on our blood cholesterol, or the measure that you get if you go to the doctor and have lab tests done. So, a long time ago, and this was way early in my understanding of nutrition, when I was in college, we used to say, oh, don't eat so many eggs. But now, one a day is probably fine, so enjoy eggs. They won't hurt you unless you're advised for other reasons, like an allergy, that you shouldn't eat them. So
Are egg
bad.
allergies more and more Are egg allergies more and more common these days? Because I've come across a couple of folks as of late who have noted that as a food concern.
Well, there are many allergies. Now we have a ninth allergen that's been added. Eggs are certainly an issue for some people, but I wouldn't say that they're an issue for lots of people. So it all depends on, your own issues medically, and certainly don't diagnose yourself with allergies. We have a lot of people telling themselves they're allergic to gluten, or something like that. So you want to get your medical advice from a medical provider.
With these
Hold on. Facebook's not my medical doctor? Wait a second, Julie.
No.
Come on. Sorry,
Neither is
Justin.
WebMD.
You go right ahead.
No, you're totally fine. Neither is WebMD, and man, that's a conversation for a whole other story. But I want to go back to these allergies, and you had mentioned that eggs. Is this a new thing that people are becoming allergic to, or has this been been around for a long time and now it's just kind of being recognized as an allergy?
Eggs have been on the allergic list, I'll call it, for many years. They're one of the top 8 allergens, and we just added sesame as another one, but actually there are dozens and dozens of different foods that people can have issues with. So allergies to eggs have been around for a long time, and as with any kind of allergy, what you have to do is avoid that food. And that means you have to look at the label and the ingredient statement, because all food products are required by law to list any allergen of those top 9 now that are present.
Well, there's a lot of there's eggs in a lot of different things, but what kind of allergy is this? I mean, in like a severity wise, and I don't know if this is like a pretty universal thing or if it's kind of conditional based on the person, but say you're allergic to eggs. I mean, is this something that's going to, possibly kill you if you eat it, or is it something that's just going to kind of like, make your stomach upset and your gut hurt for a day or two?
Now, if you have a severe allergy to any of those top allergens, you could, it could be fatal for you. So you really do have to be cautious and, see a doctor before you diagnose yourself. So it can be fatal. Allergens in general can lead to problems with breathing. That's your worst case if you can no longer breathe. But it can do things like cause skin irritation. It can cause coughing and all those sorts of things. It kind of depends on what type of allergy it is. And if you're looking for information on that kind of thing, a really good source is to go to the Centers for Disease Control, cdc.gov, look around, and don't go on Facebook, please, and get medical advice.
So, Julie, we've been getting some email questions as well, and one of them is, and I know this is very prevalent in Europe, where they don't refrigerate eggs the way that we do here in the United States. Do you want to address that as to why there's that difference?
I'd say the main reason is that we wash our eggs in the U.S., where in Europe they probably do not wash that natural bloom off of the egg, and that bloom is released by the chicken prior to them laying the eggs, and that actually kind of makes them airtight, and it seals them from the outside air and anything that could get inside. So if you leave that bloom intact, say you buy eggs from a farmer who doesn't wash their eggs, you can actually leave them on the counter. I personally would have a hard time leaving eggs on the counter, but it is considered okay for a week or so because they have that bloom in place. On the other hand, if you buy your eggs in a grocery store where that washing is required and they actually sanitize them to reduce the bacteria such as salmonella that might be on the outside of the egg, you do want to refrigerate those. And most of our refrigerators are at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's great temperature for keeping an egg fresh for up to 5 weeks.
And Julie, I know there's a way to tell if eggs are fresh. I believe you put them in water. If they sink, they're not fresh. If they float, they're fresh, or it's vice versa. Is that true?
Yeah, if the egg sinks and lays flat, the egg is fresh. If it floats, they're no longer fresh because that means that you are getting more air inside, I guess. So yeah, you can do that, but a better thing to do is to check the expiration dates. And just in general, with the cost of all food now, it's a good idea once you get it home to put the date that you bought the food on the food. If you store your canned goods or anything, it's just a good idea to use that FIFO rule, first in, first out, and rotate your stock in your kitchen.
Now, would there be any harm, let's say, in using, let's say that the eggs are not considered fresh, would they be safe to hard boil and eat them that way, or no, that's not a good idea?
Well, what happens is that eggs lose their quality, so if they're safely kept in a refrigerator and you had them in there for a long time, they'd still be safe to use as long as you cook them thoroughly. And we in food safety say that's about 145 degrees internal temperature. So yes, it probably would be safe as long as you kept that egg in your refrigerator if it was a commercial egg. So, you can certainly hard cook an egg, but keep in mind that once you hard cook an egg, you actually lower the shelf life. So you might take those eggs that have a 5-week shelf life, and then you hard cook them or hard boil them, and you just reduce the shelf life down to 7 days.
Oh.
I see. And if you'd like to join in on this conversation, ask a question for Julie, please feel free to do so. Give us a call at 701-293-9000. Before we head to break, I'm going to bring in Jake really quick because Jake's got a question for you, Julie, about eggs. Welcome to the show, Jake. What's your question?
Hi there. So thank you for taking my call. So are eggs, like, say you go to even like a grocery store or like Costco, they have like 2 packs of hard-boiled eggs. I think they even say organic, but I don't know. And that was a question too, what organic means to you on an egg. And then if they're just as safe and just as good quality, if they're hard-boiled in 2 packs and the they're already cooked and sealed up and everything.
Yes, those eggs will
If
certainly
that's
be
just as good
safe.
quality as a regular egg, if you hard-boil it yourself.
Certainly. When you buy commercially hard-cooked eggs, they've just been processed or boiled under more controlled situations than we can do probably in our own home, but they're certainly safe. And I would suggest looking at the expiration date or the use-by date on the package, so you use those within the time that they say they are of high quality and high safety.
Got it. Already, and that was another question. So I'm just a single person. I never eat them fast enough, and then they do go by the expiration date. So they look and look good and everything. It's still not a good idea to eat them after that.
Eggs last a long time. Why we say to use them within, say, 5 weeks of purchase is for the best quality, but they are going to stay safe longer. What happens over time is you can't make beautiful souffles out of them or angel food cakes because they won't be high enough of quality. But they will be safe. They just get a little thinner and they don't whip the way they used to, in terms of making some of those fancy desserts. But if you're just going to cook an egg or fry an egg, they're going to be fine.
Julie, we've been getting a lot of emails coming in about different egg questions and other food questions. And if anyone out there wants to join in on the conversation, 701-293-9000, or you can reach us via email at weatherorag@flagfamily.com. And one of the questions that have come in, Julie, was that producers and grocery stores put a layer of wax on fruit and vegetables to make them look pretty. But has that ever been done, or is there anything with food safety with that being eaten? And is it true that they put the wax on it?
Well, some fruits and vegetables are waxed for a protective layer. That has to be 100% safe for us to consume. So it's not a problem. You can always scrub it off. All we recommend with fruits and vegetables is to use running water and a little scrub brush if necessary, a vegetable brush, but there is no danger in consuming any wax because it has to be edible.
I see. And then there was another one, is what's up with people only eating white eggs, and is there a difference, and does it really matter? And I think we had kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. You'd said that there really isn't a difference.
Justin, that's
No,
egg
there's
whites.
really not.
Oh, is it egg
They're
whites?
asking egg whites. I saw the message too, and they're asking about egg whites versus eating the full egg with the yolk.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well that's a great question. Egg whites are very, very high in protein. However, the egg yolk also has some fat, and it also contains the pigments that we haven't talked about this yet. There are certain pigments or colorants naturally in eggs that are really, really good for our eyes. They can help protect us from age-related macular degeneration, which is a leading cause of blindness. So eating those whole eggs is probably really good for you because of the lutein and zeaxanthin. Those are the two pigments that are naturally found in egg yolks.
And do people kind of lack those two things in your, say, average diet?
Yeah, eggs are one of the few really good sources of lutein and zeaxanthin, but you can also get those pigments in brightly colored vegetables, including corn and orange peppers. So it's a good idea to try to eat a lot of naturally colored foods, such as fruits and vegetables, and you can throw eggs in there as well.
I see. We had another emailer question come in asking about what are some of the health benefits of eating eggs, and can eating eggs regularly decrease the chances of any, more serious illnesses or diseases, such as like, heart disease or things like that?
Well, eggs are such a great source of protein that we all need to keep our bodies strong, our muscles, and so on. Eggs also are one of the few natural sources of vitamin D. And many of us, especially in our area with the kind of weather we've had this winter, are not getting out in the sun and making any vitamin D on our skin. So, certainly eggs can provide that vitamin D, which is good for our immune system and also our bone health. So that protein and these natural pigments and the natural vitamin D really make eggs a standout. And other research has shown that if we have eggs for breakfast, it really builds that satiety, so we're less likely to overeat later in the day. So having that protein, and it doesn't have to be eggs, but having protein for breakfast in combination with, at least a couple other food groups is really good way to get your morning started.
So, Julie, as folks, just a second, but as folks have been worried about their high cost of proteins as of late, and eggs can be an alternative to that, although even those have shown some spikes in the budget. What would be some alternatives and recipes that you could use instead of the ever powerful egg? What are other options folks might want to look at?
Well, there are a number of different options, and it depends on what you're trying to make. So, for example, if you're going to make muffins or banana bread or something like that, that will call for eggs, you can often use applesauce, like a quarter cup of applesauce as a replacement for the eggs, or use mashed banana, a fourth of a cup, or vegetable oil, fourth of a cup, or yogurt or buttermilk, again, a fourth of a cup. And here's a really unique one that I heard at a conference one time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term aquafaba. I wasn't. It's the liquid found in canned chickpeas or other canned dry beans. And that, if we use 3 tablespoons of that somewhat gelatinous liquid that comes out of the peas or beans during that canning process, that actually works pretty well as an egg substitute.
And Julie, so I love hard boiling eggs and using them as a snack. I mean, it just there's a lot of protein in it, fills you up, it's good for you, the whole works. Now, every time I hard boil eggs, they come out different. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the kind of egg or I usually cook them at the same time. Sometimes the yolk will come out green. Sometimes it's a nice yellow. Why would that happen? Probably because they're cooked too long if they turn green. But what is the best way to hard boil eggs and how long?
Well, I'm not trying to advertise any products, but some people have, in fact, I had one until my daughter took it from me. It was a little pod that cooks eggs, and they're perfect every time. So it's just a little portable egg cooker. There also are some of those available for use in the microwave oven. But if it's turning green, that means that you're having a reaction from overcooking between the proteins in the egg. So really the best way to cook an egg is not to boil it. It's to bring the eggs in cool water to a boil, cover it, pull it off, and let them sit for, I think it's 15 minutes. I don't have that recipe in front of me, but that prevents that natural chemical reaction from occurring.
So you bring it to a boil, but you don't boil them and then take it off and let them sit for 15 minutes?
Yep, and if you go to, I think it's called the Incredible Edible Egg, or it's the Egg Board that came up with that method, and that does lead to some nice-looking eggs, so they're not going to have a green halo.
Right.
See, Dean, we're going to have to get you one of those Julia Child cookbooks or cooking classes.
I'm a decent cook. Just occasionally I get sidetracked and
You get gray eggs.
And I get green eggs.
Green eggs and ham.
Green eggs
How
and
about
ham.
that?
Did you say you're occasionally a decent cook? That's what I got out of that message.
Hey.
Occasionally.
But also, after Julie said she makes sure to date all her canned goods and the things that go in her fridge, I've come to realize her kitchen is far more organized than any one of ours, guys. Any one of ours.
Oh, I'm
No
sure
way we're
by
doing that.
far.
Well, some days. Some days.
Julie, I had another. I got two last questions before we wrap things up here. One of them was going back to being allergic to eggs. Is it the yolk, the white, or can it be both that people can be allergic to?
It's the protein within the egg. So it could be either, because there's protein throughout an egg.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if you're allergic to eggs, you can't separate eggs and eat the yolk or the white. You can't eat eggs at all. I do have some allergen handouts that my dietetic students worked with me on our NDSU Extension website. So I certainly welcome you to just Google NDSU Extension Food and Nutrition, and you'll find probably 300 or more publications, including allergens.
And Julie, I know for nutritional facts, eggs are very good in that. Is it okay to eat raw eggs? Let's say you're making, I know a lot of people that are trying to lose weight or bodybuilders, you see them just have raw eggs. They'll shake it up and just drink that. Is that safe?
I would not recommend that because there's always a risk of salmonella, which is a bad bacteria that
Right.
could be in eggs. It's not going to be in every egg, but we don't recommend it. Plus, when you cook an egg, you aid the digestibility of the protein. So if you want to really digest all those good nutrients in eggs, I would certainly recommend that you cook them and reach the safe temperature that we suggest, which I said was 145.
And would that go the same for our animals? Because I know my last dog, she loved, like, if you just put a fresh cracked egg on her, like if she wasn't eating her dry food, you put an egg on there, she'd eat the whole thing. Same thing with dogs. Go ahead and cook it. It's not safe for dogs either to just put a raw egg on their food.
Well, I'm not a veterinarian, but
Okay.
I've raised a lot of dogs, and I always cook their eggs. They really
Okay.
like eggs as well.
Okay.
And Julie, I had mentioned that I was going to take one for the team over here and ask you this question, but what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, I don't think I have an answer for that. I'd say the chicken came first.
Oh, Julie, well, this has been awesome and great. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. If people want to get more information about eggs, about other food and safety from you at the NDSU Extension, or if they want to get more information from getting in contact with you, how could they do so?
The best thing is to just Google us or use your search engine you like, NDSU Extension Food and Nutrition, and that should take you to our site. So just do the search.
All right. Well.